Have you ever wondered why, despite reading countless books, attending numerous workshops, or listening to endless spiritual teachings, you still feel stuck? What do moments of peace seem fleeting and clarity so rare? Could it be that the answer lies not in reading more but in reading deeper? Welcome back, my friends. Thank you for joining me once again on this path of exploration, reflection, and awakening. Today, I want to share with you something that may seem deceptively simple but holds within it the power to completely transform the way you live, perceive, and understand the world. Slowly reading the Heart Sutra. You might be wondering, how can slowing down a reading of a few short lines make such a massive impact? Isn't wisdom about how much you know? Isn't transformation about doing more? Actually, no. In fact, the very idea that you need to chase, collect, and consume more knowledge is one of the reasons why your inner world feels cluttered and confused. What if the very key to your liberation is already in your hands? What if, instead of rushing through sacred texts like the Heart Sutra, you began to truly see them and not as words on paper, but as mirrors reflecting your own true nature? Let's journey into the Heart Sutra slowly, not as students in a race to understand, but as wanderers in the vast landscape of consciousness. The Heart Sutra is one of the most well-known and deeply revered texts in Mahayana Buddhism. At its surface, it's incredibly short, less than 300 Chinese characters in its traditional form. But within those few lines lies the distilled essence of the Buddha's profound insight into the nature of reality. Form is emptiness, and emptiness is form. Perhaps you've heard these words before, but have you ever truly sat with them? Have you breathed with them? Have you let them enter your bones? Let's pause right here. Form is emptiness. This phrase isn't just a poetic riddle. It's a direct pointing to a truth that can dissolve your suffering if you let it. Think about your body, your relationships, your job, your possessions. They all have a form, shape, appearance, labels. But when seen deeply, all of them are impermanent. All of them are dependent on causes and conditions. None of them exist in isolation. Strip away those conditions, and the form vanishes. How flip it? Emptiness is form. That which we think of as void, hence, nothingness, is actually teeming with potential. Emptiness is not an nihilistic abyss. It's the fertile ground from which all form rises. Reading these lines quickly won't give you that insight. But if you read them slowly, breathe them in, hold them in the silence between your thoughts, something shifts. Suddenly, the argument you had this morning doesn't seem as solid. The anxiety about your future loses its grip. You realize everything is changing. Everything is empty of fixed identity, and in that emptiness is freedom. Let's go deeper. The Heart Sutra dismantles our habitual attachment to five skins: form, sensation, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. It says that in true wisdom, these are empty. If you rush through this teaching, it sounds like denial, like erasing your humanity. But if you read it slowly, with presence, with humility, it reveals a breathtaking truth. You are not your sensations. You are not your thoughts. You are not your memories. You are not your feelings. You are something beyond, something that observes, something that remains untouched by the waves of emotion and mental noise. This is why reading slowly matters. Because true understanding isn't intellectual, it's embodied. It's felt in the stillness between words, arrives in the silence after the breath. Imagine this: instead of reading the entire Heart Sutra in one sitting, you take a week with one line. You read it, you breathe with it, you sit silently with it. At one line becomes your koan, or mirror, or mantra. You take no eye, no ear, no nose, no times, and reflect. What does it mean to have no eye? Not in the physical sense, but in the sense of non-attachment to perception. And then, when someone cuts you off in traffic or criticizes you online, you remember the one who is hurt is not the real you. The self that clings to form is an illusion, and suddenly, you're free. This is the alchemy of slow reading. You don't just learn the sutra, you become it. You don't just memorize lines, you embody them. You don't just read for knowledge, you read for awakening. In our culture of speed, slowing down is radical. It's revolutionary. Everything around you says hurry up, finish fast, move on. The Sutra whispers, be still, go deep, look again. Because wisdom doesn't come from speed, it comes from presence. Let's talk about presence for a moment. When you read slowly, your awareness sharpens. You begin to notice the subtle shifts in your mind. You notice when resistance rises, when boredom creeps in, when distraction pulls you away. And each of these is a doorway. Boredom, that's the mind's discomfort with stillness. Distraction, that's the ego's fear of silence. Resistance, that's the heart's yearning for truth, blocked by habit. When you read the sutra slowly, you're not just reading, we're meditating, we're observing yourself, you're practicing mindfulness. And in that space, something beautiful happens. You begin to see that the sutra isn't out there. It's not a text on a page. It's the truth of your own nature, speaking through symbols. The phrase, no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cessation, no path, suddenly becomes a lived experience. You see that what you call suffering was often just resistance. You see that the path is not a destination, but a letting go. Slow reading teaches you patience, humility, depth. It teaches you to trade information for transformation. Because here's the secret, the Heart Sutra doesn't change your life. You change your life when you allow it to enter you, one word, one breath, one silence at a time. There's a story of a monk who was asked, "What is your practice?" He replied, "I read the Heart Sutra. One word a day. That's it." Because one word, when truly understood, contains the whole universe. Imagine that. Reading not to finish, but to begin. Reading not to learn, but to dissolve. Reading not to escape life, but to meet it fully. When you slow down, you begin to see the spaces between the lines. And in those spaces, truth blooms. In the next section, we'll continue to expand this theme and travel even deeper into the lived experience of the Heart Sutra, not as doctrine, but as daily nourishment for the soul.